For Jacob Carter, life on his ranch wasn't just peaceful, it was sacred. He had inherited the 50-acre spread from his father, who'd taught him how to care for horses, plant corn, and live off the land. The wooden gate at the entrance wasn't just a barrier. It was a symbol of everything Jacob had worked for. Each morning he'd rise before dawn, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint the sky in gold over his grazing horses. He knew every inch of the property like the back of his hand. Out here, time slowed down, and respect for the land wasn't a request, it was a rule. But that rule was about to be broken. Jacob had heard whispers about a new subdivision being built next to his land. He wasn't thrilled, but progress was progress. It wasn't until a silver SUV began appearing near his property line that he realized one of those new residents would become his biggest problem. Her name was Karen Whitmore, and she was exactly the type of neighbor Jacob had hoped to avoid, loud, entitled, and obsessed with rules. Her rules. Within weeks of moving in, she'd declared herself president of the HOA, barking orders at contractors and dictating where people could park. Jacob didn't think much of her until her arrogance crossed into his land. One quiet afternoon, Jacob was mending a fence when he noticed something strange: deep tire tracks running across the dirt path inside his property line. They started at the paved neighborhood road and cut straight through his ranch, passing right by his wooden gate. At first, he brushed it off. Maybe a lost driver had turned around. But the next morning, the same tracks appeared, deeper this time, fresh and deliberate. Someone wasn't lost. Someone was cutting through his land on purpose. Jacob's gut told him exactly who it was. The following afternoon, Jacob sat on his porch waiting, and sure enough, there she was. Karen's shiny SUV slowed at the property line, then rolled right through his gate without hesitation, gravel crunching under her tires. Jacob waved his arms and shouted, "Hey, this is private property." Karen stopped, rolled her window down with an annoyed sigh, and smiled that condescending smile people use when they think they're above you. "Oh, calm down, Jacob," she said sweetly. "It's just a shortcut. It saves me 5 minutes to the main road." Jacob's jaw tightened. "Shortcut or not, this is my land." "Stay off of it," Karen laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, please. It's just an empty field. You ranch people are so dramatic." She rolled up her window and drove off, dust swirling behind her tires. The next morning, the gate Jacob had closed the night before stood wide open. He checked the latch. It wasn't broken, it had been unlatched. Then he saw it again. Fresh tracks, the same SUV tires, cutting across his ranch like it was a public road. His frustration grew into anger. He checked the security footage from the camera near his barn. There it was, Karen, bold as ever, pushing open his gate and driving through like she owned the place. No hesitation, no care, no respect. This wasn't just trespassing anymore. It was a challenge. 2 days later, Jacob found an envelope in his mailbox. The HOA logo was stamped on the front. Inside was a typed letter. "Your gate is obstructing community traffic and violates neighborhood access guidelines. Please remove it within 10 days to avoid fines." Jacob laughed out loud. Fines? From an HOA that had no jurisdiction over his land? His property wasn't part of their neighborhood. It was older, grandfathered in, and fully private. It wasn't a legal demand. It was a threat. And Jacob knew exactly who had sent it. That evening, Jacob sat on his porch watching the sunset burn orange across his fields. He thought about the land his father had built, the sacrifices his family had made to keep it. And now some HOA president thought she could bully him out of his own rights. His father's words echoed in his head. "Don't start fights, son." But never let anyone walk on your land. Karen had started the fight. Now Jacob was going to end it. And he was going to do it legally, smartly, and in a way she'd never forget. The next morning, Jacob got to work. He reinforced the ranch gate with steel hinges strong enough to stop a truck. Then, he installed motion sensors. Beneath the gravel path, hidden from view but ready to trigger a response the moment a vehicle crossed without permission. The final piece of his plan was a retractable spike strip just past the gate. designed to stay flat for authorized vehicles but rise up automatically if triggered by the motion sensors. It was completely legal and completely invisible. He placed 3 new signs near the entrance. Private property, no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted 24/7. Surveillance in use. This wasn't anger. It was precision. Karen wanted a shortcut. She was about to get a detour. With everything ready, Jacob repositioned his cameras to capture the entire road and the gate. He even adjusted one to get a perfect shot of license plates. Then he waited. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. But on day 3, a sunny Saturday afternoon, he heard it. The low hum of a familiar engine. He set his coffee mug down and walked to the porch, hiding a small smile. The trap was set. Now it was time to see if she would take the bait. Karen's silver SUV slowed near the gate. She glanced left, right, then, just as confidently as before, she pushed the gate open and drove in. But the moment her tires touched the hidden sensor, everything changed. The gate swung shut automatically behind her, locking with a loud metallic clank. At the same time, the retractable spike strip rose silently in front of her wheels. Karen hit the brakes, confused, trapped in a narrow stretch of Jacob's private road. "What the?" she shouted, throwing the SUV into reverse, but the locked gate stopped her. Panic spread across her face. For the first time, Karen realized she wasn't the one in control. Karen sat frozen behind the wheel, eyes darting from the locked gate behind her to the sharp steel spikes in front. The arrogance that once filled her voice had vanished. Now she was panicking. She stepped out of her SUV, heels crunching against the gravel, and started shouting toward Jacob's farmhouse. "Open this gate right now! You can't do this to me!" From his porch, Jacob simply sipped his coffee. "You're on my property without permission. I warned you more than once." Karen's face turned red. "I'll call the HOA. I'll call the police." Jacob shrugged. "Be my guest." It took less than 20 minutes for flashing lights to appear down the road. A county sheriff's deputy pulled up to the gate, where Karen was pacing angrily. "This man trapped me here!" she shouted as the deputy stepped out. "He's violating HOA rules and endangering my safety." The deputy raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, this is private property. HOA rules don't apply here. But it's a shortcut I've been using for weeks," she stammered. "Which means you've been trespassing for weeks," the deputy replied calmly. "And from what I see here, the property owner has every right to protect his land." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Jacob approached with a folder in hand. "Deputy, I have security footage of her entering without permission. Multiple times. I've also documented the HOA letter she sent me threatening fines. It's all here." The deputy flipped through the pages, nodding. "This is thorough." "You've covered your bases." Karen crossed her arms. "This is ridiculous." "He can't trap me like an animal," the deputy sighed. "Actually, ma'am, he hasn't. He's prevented further trespassing, legally. And if you damaged his gate or property, he could press charges." For the first time, fear crept into Karen's expression. By the next day, Jacob received another letter. This one marked urgent. The HOA demanded he remove the obstructions immediately or face legal consequences. But this time, Jacob didn't just laugh, he responded. With the help of his lawyer, he sent them a detailed packet proving his property's legal status and documenting every trespass. The HOA's tone shifted overnight. Suddenly, there were no more threats, only requests to work together amicably. But Jacob wasn't interested in handshakes. He wanted accountability. News travels fast in small communities. Within a week, everyone in the neighborhood knew the story. The HOA president had been illegally driving through private land, got trapped, and nearly faced trespassing charges. Parents whispered about it at the bus stop. Joggers slowed as they passed her house. Karen's once commanding presence at HOA meetings had crumbled into awkward silence. The woman who loved control was now a walking cautionary tale. Karen tried one last desperate move. She hinted at suing Jacob for emotional distress, but when her lawyer reviewed the footage and the property records, they advised her to drop the idea immediately. "She has no case," Jacob's lawyer told him. In fact, if you wanted, you could sue her for repeated trespassing and tampering with your property. Jacob thought about it long and hard. He didn't want a long legal battle, he just wanted peace. But he wasn't going to let her walk away without learning a lesson. Eventually, Karen and the HOA reached out with an official proposal. They would issue a public apology, pay for the damage done to Jacob's gate, and formally recognize his property boundaries in writing. No more attempts to use his land as a shortcut. Jacob agreed, but with one condition: any future violation would trigger immediate legal action. No warnings, no negotiations. Karen signed the agreement with trembling hands. A week later, Jacob installed a brand new, polished wooden sign at the entrance of his property. Private ranch, no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. Beneath it, in smaller letters, shortcut closed permanently. Every time Karen drove past it now, she had to look away. It was a daily reminder of the day she learned that not everything, or everyone, bowed to her authority. With the drama behind him, Jacob returned to his quiet ranch life. The fields swayed golden again, the horses grazed peacefully, and the sound of tires crunching over his private road was gone for good. Occasionally, he'd catch sight of Karen driving the long way around the neighborhood, a small but deeply satisfying victory. His land was his again. And this time, no one dared challenge it. Months later, Karen showed up at Jacob's gate. No SUV, no shouting, just her, holding a small box of cookies. "I wanted to apologize," she said softly. "I was out of line." Jacob studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted. Just stay on your side of the fence." Karen gave a small, embarrassed smile and turned to leave. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, Jacob felt a quiet satisfaction settle in. He hadn't just defended his land, he'd defended his principles, and sometimes that's the sweetest victory of all.